Hey everybody, welcome back to another news roundup. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. Hopefully I got some content putting out for you guys. Just been recording a few videos today, so hopefully those videos are coming out in a timely manner. But we are back with another news roundup. Got a couple of news things to talk about today. So yeah, I'm just going to cut this short and we're just going to dive right on in. So the first thing we're going to discuss is revolving around one of the more noteworthy films, or one of the more just talked about films from last year. A film called The Brutalist, a film of which that I wasn't really that curious to see. Saw the trailer and it didn't really do much for me. Um, so there was an interesting article that came out about the production that came with The Brutalist, and sad the internet had a spawned a bit of a controversy, I guess. But to talk about it real quick, so so the editor for the Brutalist, which I forgot his name, uh, he revealed in an interview that apparently that they implemented some usage of artificial intelligence to help enhance the two central performances, those being Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones, by cleaning up their Hungarian accents because uh, according to the interview, he tried to do some ADR with the actors, and then with other actors, and both options apparently didn't work out. So instead, what they ended up doing was that they called in Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones again. They did their lines through an algorithm this time, and the editor, who is apparently very fluent in Hungarian, he implemented his own vocals to feed into the system, which brought out a more accurate sound to a more accurate accent, which then he synced and basically overrided the original audio clips from the production. So basically he's just cleaned up some stuff, and apparently the film is largely in Hungarian, so that's another reason as to why a lot of people are taking issue with that, because it does in some way take away some of the authenticity of that performance. Um, but the director of the film, Brady Corbett, he responded to these comments by suggesting that their acting wasn't altered, but did confirm that there was AI tech used to, quote, preserve the authenticity of Adrian's and Felicity's performances in another language, which is not true because they had to clean up the accents, so that's completely false. So, uh, but as I've illustrated as well, though, the online community is not happy with this decision, and they've suggested that their lead performances should be disqualified from any awards consideration. Now, obviously, that didn't matter because the Oscar nominations came out, and we'll actually discuss that briefly in a little bit here because I have something to talk about there, but obviously that didn't affect things there. But to what I've read about the film itself, like I said, it is apparently largely in Hungarian. And to that end, and seeing why people are calling for their removal from the ballots and stuff, I can understand to a certain extent what they're talking about. Because, like I said, it does, if we're talking literally, it does take away some of the authentic nature of those performances if AI implementation is there. Um, However, through the explanation that I just gave you, right, even though there is usage of AI, which I'm not a fan of, I'm not for it, because it does, it despite their involvement, it does take away the authenticity of their performances to some extent. But to acknowledge everything, their involvement is still there. They still came in, they still did work. So to some extent, the work is still intact, even if it's completely not their own. Their involvement is still there to some capacity. So I think the best word for this whole thing is just disappointing, because it's just, I don't think that these implementations need to happen, but they seem to be happening more frequently. Very famously, like back in 2008 with The Dark Knight, the final scene. I know that this is VFX, not AI stuff, but Remember Two-Face at the end of The Dark Knight when Batman moves his face from one side to the other? Aaron Eckhart's face was originally smiling in that scene, so they added VFX to actually turn his smile into a frown. So stuff like that, enhancements like that, I don't like how they override or change the original work. I mean, if it doesn't work, that's why you do multiple takes, right? Or that's why you do reshoots. So I don't care about the awards aspect as much because that's what people are kind of getting up on. I really could give a shit. I don't care who gets nominated for what. And frankly, you shouldn't either. It's just a silly thing. I'm just more disappointed that they felt the need to do this because to me it also shows a lack of trust in the work behind those performances. Like, to me, if it doesn't work, just try again. That's how I view this. If it doesn't work, try again. Don't just cheat, because that's kind of in some ways what they did. But but I do acknowledge that the actors themselves, they still participated. They still tried to, to make it work. So it's not like the editor himself just went off on his own and then what we're hearing is another person's voice entirely. No, their voices are still there to some extent. So the involvement is still there. It's to say though that it's not completely genuine now with that knowledge. So I get why people are upset, but I'm not. I'm not. I wouldn't get uh, as heated just because they're they're still involved. They're still doing work. It's not that they're just eliminated entirely. They still are doing something there. So so it's disappointing, but that's really as far as I'll take it for just my opinion. So. All right, speaking of disappointments, let's get into another Star Wars film that was announced. So, we talked about a Star Wars announcement, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, when they announced a brand new trilogy for Star Wars coming from, I believe it's Simon Kinberg, yeah. Uh, well, apparently, another Star Wars film is in the works because we can't get enough Star Wars now, can we? Uh, Another film has been announced. This one is going to be helmed by Sean Levy, who is coming of course, Deadpool and Wolverine, which was a big success last year. And this will be apparently starring Ryan Gosling. Now, this has been in development for the past 2 years, so Sean Levy has been working on this for a while, and it's been recently given priority now with the involvement of Ryan Gosling. So it was just kind of floating around. It was kind of just like being, basically conceptualized. But then when Ryan Gosling became interested, that's when they decided to move forward with it. So much so that they're actually looking to shoot the film later this year, sometime in the fall season. So, so with this announcement, guys, we currently have 9 Star Wars films that are supposedly still in development. And just to list them out for you, we have, of course, The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is the only Star Wars film coming out, that being May 22nd, 2026. Then we have Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie, which we don't really know the status of. Um, we have James Mangold's Jedi origin film, which I believe he talked about not too long ago, still is writing stuff on it. We have the Rey film, which just today we got an update on. Apparently, there's another writer coming on to work on the script. So then we have a Rogue Squadron, which we haven't heard much of on. I would presume that it's dead, but we don't really necessarily know. And then we have, of course, Simon Kinberg's Star Wars trilogy, which we just talked about not too long ago on the channel. So, God, there's just so much Star Wars stuff. And look, the irony is that I've actually been getting into the lore a little bit. I like the clear inspirations that Star Wars has, like from, like samurai aesthetic and like the old like Western type. I like that they're combining a lot of these cultural ideas and fusing it into one. And I think it's kind of an interesting layout. But I'm not crazy about modern Star Wars, if that makes sense. Like, I've been getting into it, but I've been getting more into just the old Star Wars, the original trilogy, even to some extent the prequels, but not necessarily with the modern ones. I mean, I've seen, of course, the modern ones, the modern trilogy I've seen, obviously. Wasn't too crazy on, but I'm just, I don't know, I'm just not really into the new stuff. I mean, outside of The Mandalorian, which I even that kind of got old for me. I dropped that off after the second season. There's just not really a whole lot to get excited about. And judging by reception online, and honestly by the latest performances the shows I've been doing, they just had a show come out, the Skeleton Crew or something like that. Apparently had like the lowest ratings for a Star Wars film, so or for a Star Wars show. Yeah, even worse than the Acolyte, which I know a lot of people did not like. Um, it's just the fatigue, man. It's just strong right now. The fatigue is strong, in Star Wars right now. Um, and even if the interest is largely still there, like, like think about it. Even if the interest is still there, it's way too much right now. It's way too much. Too many announcements for things that never come to pass or just stay in limbo for a couple of years. Like, I think it's best to just pick two and just start from there. I'd say go with the Ray film, honestly, because that seems like your financially your best bet. In terms of financial security, that seems like something you'd want to work on, keep priority on. That seems like they are because they just picked up another writer. But otherwise, people are just burnt out. Like, I think they're just really, Star Wars just needs like a break. But, as business goes, you keep on going. And I think people just are just tired. It's just honestly just too much, and I get why people are just tired of it. And I don't think that another Star Wars film is going to make much of a difference. So, but there's another one in the works, and we'll see if it comes to fruition. We'll just have to wait and see. So. All right. Sorry if you noticed the audio change. I just went to do something, and now we're back. So sorry if you noticed a little bit of a tonal change and audio change. Just had to do some stuff. Like I said, we're dealing with some stuff in the house. So, but anyways, um, let's get into this because we've been talking about this a lot. We just talked about this in the last video, and we have some new developments with regards to the It Ends With Us case. So, uh, we have some interesting developments here because Justin Baldoni is a lawyer, has decided to release some raw on-set footage of Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni working on an intimate scene together. Now, this raw footage presents three separate takes from the intimate sequence, and whether or not it's complete footage, we don't know, but the fact is that footage plays for a long duration of time, no cuts, no nothing. That's what I mean by I say raw. It's like it's there, one solid chunk of footage of them doing stuff. Now, each of these takes show both Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, in my view, just getting along and finding ways to achieve the energy that they're after. Like Blake Lively wants there to be more talking, and Justin Baldoni is kind of leaning in, which appears to be done intentionally by design because as far as I can tell from the outside, just what the story is supposed to be about, Baldoni is supposed to be this hostile, abusive type, kind of the toxic masculinity that the film's wanting to touch on. I think that that's what his character ultimately is trying to be. But Blake Lively's lawyers have actually responded to the release of the footage, and they've said that for one, that it violates a lot of judicial rules that are in place, and they're pursuing a gag order to prevent Baldoni's team from releasing any further messages or footage, which is interesting because Baldoni's team actually plan on creating a website where they're going to just be releasing a bunch of this stuff. So, and I guess it doesn't violate judicial rules from what I've read because uh, lawyers or people representing their clients, um, they can respond to any negative publicity towards their client. So I don't know. Maybe there's a gray area there that I'm not reading into, but Blake Lively's lawyers also state that they think that the footage actually characterizes Baldoni as a bit of a manhandler, like kind of ignoring the discomfort that Blake Lively may or may not be displaying, because as I illustrated, Lively was wanting to do more talking in the scene, whereas Baldoni wanted to do a lot more of an intimate view. Now, at the end of the day, right, we weren't on set. We don't know what's going on inside their heads, so that's to be seen in court. That said, based on what I saw, again, just reading the vibe here, just reading on the 10 minutes that I saw, I just saw two actors engaging in a scene. That's all I saw. To do an intimate scene, you have to be intimate. I mean, that's just how it works. I know this because I actually, in one of my when I used to do short films, the last short film, oddly enough, I actually had to do an intimate scene with someone. It was literally the same type of deal where it's an intimate scene. Y'all might kiss at the end or something like that kind of vibe. That's what me and someone else did for a scene, and obviously you have to make it seem natural by playing off each other, which is what it seems they're doing here. They're discussing, they're talking about, hey, why don't we try some talking, or I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. Like, it's feeling each other out. It's not like he's coming in and establishing a certain thing here and there. It's like, no, and let's just be real here, like really, really real. If she was uncomfortable, you need to speak up. Okay, you're not a little girl or a little child. You're a full adult, full grown adult. You should be able to speak up for yourself. And even if Baldoni is attracted to Blake Lively, uh, duh. Okay, a scene like this wouldn't come off as genuine if he wasn't already attracted to her, and vice versa. You guys have to be attracted to each other on some level. Again, I have experience in this. The person that I was doing that scene with, yeah, to some extent, I was attracted to that person. So, like, that's just kind of how it works, you know. Um, if anything, they appear to be fairly level. Like, I don't get any feeling of stepping over any boundaries or anything like that. Like, it's an intimate scene. It's like doing a sex scene and the man can't get on top of you. Like, come on. It's like, you know what I mean? Or vice versa, It's like, I think it helps, in my view, for at least Baldoni's case, I think it helps present a more considerable side of him. Now, obviously, we'll see with more evidence that comes out. Maybe I will turn a whole 180 once I see, or the whole 360 once I see, or 180. What the hell am I talking about? Maybe I'll flip a 180 based on what other information comes out. But as far as that footage is concerned, I don't see anything. I don't see anything wrong. If anything, it helps his case more than Lively does. So, and pursuing a gag order, like, I guess fairly egregiously from what I've been seeing online, that doesn't really do well, for your case, in my opinion. It'd be one thing if you just disputed it and then you were like, all right, we'll leave it up to court to decide, kind of giving you like, oh, this impression, like, well, maybe she has something. But if you have to be this egregious about, like, oh, well, I need you to stop putting this footage out. Well, why is that? Is it because there's truth to what he's putting out, or are you just upholding some sort of law? I don't know. We'll see. But as it stands, as I've said before, Baldoni's lawyers are constantly willing to show you proof. They're constantly willing to show you stuff, footage, text messages, all this stuff. Where is Blake Lively's proof? Where? Okay,
She's had a couple of messages that are out of context. That's it. And words are not equal to full text messages and now videos. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe there's more. Maybe Lively's holding out. Maybe she's waiting for court, and we're gonna see some other sides of Baldoni. But as far as I can tell, Baldoni so far is Baldoni still seems innocent to me. But we'll see how things play out in the next coming months. So, alrighty, let's get into the Oscars now. I'm not going to talk about the nominations in the like, oh, what should have been nominated and is nominated. How do I feel about that? I could give a shit. I have not cared about the Oscars for years. Last time I really watched the Oscars was, I believe, the year after Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, because I was curious, like, oh, well, how are they going to deal with that? And that was that was it, you know. Just because I don't recall watching last year's. I'm not gonna watch this year's. I just don't care. Last time I boycotted it because of just how the nature of how they deal with their nominees. Like, just they just really they don't treat their nominees fairly or treat them with all the respect that they should. So there was a time where I did boycott it, but now I just don't care. So, but it would not be the Oscars if there was not any controversies or any, for lack of a better word, just idiocracy. So as the readings for the Best Picture nominations came out, and there's 10, uh, as well as some other categories that came through, most of the select films would go without any selected nominees to go with the announcement, stating that they have yet to determine who has been nominated for those respected films. And I'm going to list out the films right here. These are all the films, as far as I can tell, that had been announced without nominees, basically without a producer credit. So, as followed, for Best Picture, the films that don't have any nominees attached to them: The Brutalist, Emilia Paris, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, and The Substance. And then two films from the Best Animated Feature category, those being Flow and Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul, which we just reviewed on this channel. Yeah, so about 7 films. 7 films, really, without nominees. So essentially, just as you understand, the Academy, which is made up with Hollywood elites and celebrities as their committee of voters, they have decided to just nominate a bunch of films without first determining who of the producers is even being recognized. So, in short, it's not a nomination. It's a bunch of blanks that will be filled later, and to me, that's just pathetic. That's just pathetic, and I'm surprised that no one's talking about it. I'm surprised that no one finds that concerning. That you just nominate things without having a nominee to supply that nomination. I mean, that it's not a nomination at that point. It's not. I mean, who's receiving the award? We don't know. Well, we don't know that yet. It's like, what? But I mean, the list is expecting, again, celebrities, it's just like whatever, because remember, celebrities don't have the time to watch movies. They basically will watch movies that everybody else is talking about, basically all the journalists, whatever the hell they talk about. They're like, oh, okay, we'll watch that. We'll give it a try. Or, hey, my friend's in this, so I'll just, support my buddies. Other, it's just a blatant listing of what the Academy wants and not what has collectively voted on. Because what's the point of the nomination then if you're just gonna literally just put up a name and not have a nominee attached to it? Like, just what's the point of a nomination? So, again, another reason why I've just stopped watching the show. It's just become so irrelevant and lost in value. I mean, it's an award show. I mean, it's never had value to begin with. But yeah, that's just I literally, the only reason why I'm talking about it is just because I went to my mom's room and the Oscars were just playing, and I was just like, oh, I guess they're out today. And I just watched for a second, and then the Best Picture stuff came up, and they just kept saying each time, uh, to be determined, to be determined, to be determined. I'm like, where are the names? They're like, well, we haven't figured those out yet. I'm like, what the That's just okay. So, so yeah, you have a bunch of stuff, a bunch of announcements, but no nominations. That's just, it wouldn't be the Oscars if there wasn't a controversy now, isn't there? So, there you go. Another controversy for the Oscars, so what's new? Just really just falling, really has been falling apart for the last few years. And this is like another illustration of that to me. So, alrighty, let's get into Robert Eggers, because he actually has a couple of films in the work, one of which is coming out next year. That being his next feature, which will be centralizing on the concept of werewolves. It's literally being called Werewolf, has like a funny title to it, and it's taking place in the 13th century England, and it will be written by him as well as Sujon. I think that's how you say his name. My apologies. He helped, I believe it's a he. He helped co-write with Eggers on 2022's The Northman, which I wasn't too crazy about. But this has a release date for Christmas Day 2026, so just trying to capitalize off of the success that was with Nosferatu, which was this past year. And he also has another film they just announced. He's going to be developing a sequel to Labyrinth with, I believe it's Universal. I don't believe there's a date announced for that just yet, because I believe this takes priority first, and then it's going to be Labyrinth too. But I could be totally wrong. I didn't look into it. You guys can let me know if I'm wrong on that information. But yeah, Robert Eggers got another film and in the works. And I'm always curious of what he's working on. I mean, he's 2 for 3 right now. I haven't seen Nosferatu yet. I'm waiting for it to pop up on streaming. But I didn't mind The Witch. I thought it was okay. I really, really love The Lighthouse. I really adore that film. And I wasn't too crazy about The Northman. So he's like 2 for 3 for me. Northman being the one I wasn't that great on. Didn't really like too much. The one aspect to his filmmaking that I find always interesting is his emphasis on psychology and the descending nature of his storytelling. You know, that all of his movies are essentially that, and Nosferatu appears to be that way as well. So, so for him to do something within the realm of werewolves, yeah, that seems very appropriate in terms of his style. And yeah, I would be down, definitely down, and especially because I think he also likes to do a lot of practical effects as well. So yeah, I would be down. I would be down. Hopefully better than the recent Wolfman that we just got, which I heard was not that great. And based off images I saw of what their Wolfman looked like, I was like, eh. So, but we'll see. Hopefully it's more like the Lighthouse and less so the Northman, but I have a feeling it's probably going to be more like the Northman. Hopefully not. We'll see. But more Eggers, as it stands, not a bad thing. So we'll see what happens with this in the near future. So, alrighty, we have one trailer to discuss for today, and then we will call it a day. So the trailer we're going to discuss briefly here is for a film called Until Dawn. This is based off of the video game with the same name. This is starring basically a bunch of 20-year-olds. I don't know any of these people. Some of the names include Ella Rubin, Michael Cimino, and Odessa Azan. Oh boy. Azan. I'm sorry, I probably butchered the hell out of that last name. But basically a bunch of 20-year-olds, new faces, all that stuff. being directed by David F. Sandberg, who you guys are probably familiar with. Has done films such as Lights Out, I almost said Lighthouse, Lights Out, Annabelle Comes Home, and of course, more mainstream-wise, Shazam films. This has a release date for April 25th, 2025, and it appears to be combining both technically and narratively a ton of like cliches and low tier tropes to generate what appears to be, in my opinion, something fairly convoluted and just convenient at the same time. Like, it's essentially a slasher stuck in a time loop, and the slashers are also different each time. Like, you get what I'm saying? Where it's just like, okay, the slasher element, that's pretty convenient. That's pretty like pretty typical, whatever. But then you tell me the slashers change every single time. Now it's just convoluted because now what are the rules? What's the layout of the circumstance? It just feels like let's just do a bunch of random things just for the sake of doing a bunch of random things. It doesn't seem like that there's a line of consistency in that. So that may translate better as a gamer, but not to an audience member. Now, oddly enough, people who have actually seen the trailer and have played the game, they're not so happy with it. Apparently, it's not a great representation of the actual game. But yeah, like I said, there doesn't appear to be rules as much as just random occurrences, and that looks to be also redundant to me. So I really doubt that many will seek this out anyway. Like it doesn't there doesn't seem to be much of a marketing campaign you can do for this, or I really don't think much effort is going to be put to market it anyway, since we're getting this footage now in January and the film comes out in April. So yeah, I don't think so because there's no noteworthy cast, which financially speaking is pretty critical in some extent, especially when you're using a notable game license. So yeah, so it doesn't do much for me. Kind of felt like clicking off halfway through the trailer, to be honest with you. Like I was just like, eh. And then they started changing monsters and just different stuff, and I was like, oh. And then I was like, oh, I was like, oh, that kind of feeling. So, yeah, that didn't really do much for me. It seems like a very just the actors don't really do much for me either. They just have that very Gen Z type energy that I just don't really care for. So yeah, not really for me. And according to the internet, doesn't seem like it's really for them either. So yeah. So those are my thoughts for this week, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Some interesting stories. Your thoughts on the It Ends with Us drama with some of that set footage. Your thoughts on the Brutalist, the controversy that was happening there. Another Star Wars film happening. And of course, with the stuff that's been going on at the Oscars. Your thoughts on the Oscars, the nominations, Eggers, his next project, Until Dawn. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.